Who was Dragonetti, and did he change the bass world forever? No. What's going on? It's Jason Heath, and I got inspired to make this video after getting this latest edition of the Dragonetti Waltzes by Robert Oppelt, Bob Oppelt, the principal bassist of the National Symphony Orchestra in Washington, D.C. Now, I've known about these waltzes forever. I worked on them a little bit in high school. My bass teacher back then was really into these pieces, but I'd never really given them much thought until I got this edition from Bob in the mail recently. As I started to dig into them, two questions popped into my mind. One, who was this guy Dragonetti anyway? And two, what did he actually compose? Double bassist Domenico Dragonetti was born in Venice and held prestigious positions in the orchestras of La Fenice, Venice's famous opera house, and St. Mark's Basilica. He was an acclaimed virtuoso whose reputation spread such that he was eventually enticed in 1794 to immigrate to London, where he was employed primarily at the King's Theatre and the Philharmonic Society. He achieved celebrity status there and was one of the more colorful personalities among London's artistic elite. No. Let's take that last sentence about Dragonetti being one of the more colorful personalities, but I want to look at 4 interesting facts about Dragonetti that might cause a little head scratching. Number 1, Dragonetti lived to be 82 years old. Now think about that. In the 1700s into the 1800s, that is a long lifespan. Number 2, he took his pug Carlos everywhere with him, and he even had him sit at his feet during rehearsals and concerts. Number 3, Dragonetti often traveled with life-size cloth mannequins. Yes, you heard that right. He would actually place them in the front row during some of his performances. You can dig in and go down that rabbit hole and be the judge of that. Links are in the description below. Number 4, it turns out that Dragonetti really did change the future of the bass. He was friends with Beethoven and worked with composers like Haydn and Paganini, Liszt, Rosin, and Mendelssohn, and he really changed people's notions of what the bass could do. Dragonetti inspired Beethoven to split off the bass and cello lines and to give the bass more ambitious parts, and that has set the stage for ever more complex bass parts going forward. We could dig way into Dragonetti and all sorts of topics, and maybe that'll happen in a future series, but I want to focus on now what Dragonetti actually wrote. This is a particularly thorny topic for bass players because the piece most associated in people's minds with Dragonetti is his double bass concerto in A major. The thing is, he didn't actually write that piece. Research has shown that Edouard Nani, the famous French bassist and teacher, wrote this piece kind of as a tribute to Dragonetti, and again, links in the description for more info on the background here. Dragonetti, however, wrote many pieces, and he was quite a fine composer, and these 12 waltzes are a prime example of his compositional style and just the grace and wit and charm that you hear in his music. So let's take a look at these 12 waltzes through the lens of this new edition from Robert Oppelt, and this is a great example of that fine line that anybody editing a part has to take between providing too many markings and not enough markings. Back in my younger days, I would take parts and obsessively mark fingerings and bowings and string indications over every single note, and in the end the part was a giant mess and I could barely read or understand what was on the page. Of course, if we don't have enough markings, we're sitting there scratching our head trying to figure out what to do. And Bob walks that line with the professionalism that you'd expect from someone who's a principal bass of a major symphony orchestra. There's just enough on the page to know where you need to be on the instrument, and he suggests multiple fingerings where it makes sense, but he doesn't clutter up the page. He doesn't repeat fingerings unnecessarily. In the end, it's an easy way to approach these pieces, and I'm finding myself getting into them and making decisions faster as a result of the way in which he's edited them. Bob also sent me some thoughts on how he approached this specific edition. The text of the part is there, and Bob lays some options over it. For the most part, you only see bowing suggestions from Bob in waltzes 1 and 3 through 6. In waltz 1, Bob breaks up the slurs in the theme, which to him makes it more dance-like and lighter. In waltz 3, Bob breaks up the slurs for the 30-second notes, which adds clarity. In Waltz 4, Bob breaks up the slurs to add clarity, make it more dance-like, but the print version is fine as well in his opinion. Waltz 5 breaks some slurs to add shape and contrast. To Bob, the original is fine, but one might work harder to achieve what he's going for. Finally, in Waltz 6, Bob adds slurs, improving the dance-like feel and the lightness. With the pedal bell tone, he liked having downbows in the open A for consistency and control. As I started to work on these, I started to remember how much fun I had back in the day working on these. I don't know why I gave up on them. They're such great pieces. They're such musical bonbons. They're perfect for so many occasions, and they really make the bass come alive and seem quite charming. I just can't say enough good things about these pieces. I should also mention that Bob has a great recording of these waltzes. That's linked in the description below. Be sure to check that out as well. Thank you so much for watching this. Check out the link in the description below for Bob's edition of these 12 Dragonetti waltzes. And if you enjoyed this, you might also like my review of Chris Koski's book, The Thumb Transition Zone. It's an area that's explored in these 12 waltzes, and we've got that linked up here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Okay, I think we're good.